And really what you're signing up for in an LOI is just a period of exclusivity. That means that you will agree to not negotiate with anybody else besides the person you've signed the agreement with.
Hi, I'm David Katch, Chief Collaboration Officer.
And I'm Shaun, CFO and Head of Mergers and Acquisitions. We lead deals at Redwood Services, one of the most prolific investors in the home services industry, where we've raised and closed over 60 deals and $2 billion in total transactions.
We're the guys who get excited about doing deals where everyone wins.
It's not only that we're passionate about it, but we enjoy sharing with the people who benefit from it most, home service business owners.
These are our insights, real, honest, and authentic.
Welcome to Sell Yeah.
Let's get into it. So today's topic is LOI, a letter of intent, one of the parts of the earlier parts of a deal. Today we'll get into what an LOI is, what an LOI isn't. So I'm excited to start our podcast.
What is Sell Yeah, David?
Sell Yeah is our new podcast from Redwood Services, meant to educate, to help people learn more about deals. We have a lot of experience doing deals. We've learned a lot. We've messed up quite a few times, and we want to help teach people about what deals are like.
I'm still trying to figure out how to say it, whether it's Sell Yeah or...
I think it should be...
Sell Yeah.
No, I think it should be Sell Yeah.
Sell Yeah.
Like hell yeah.
Well, I'm excited. We have a lot of experience doing what we're talking about today, and we're just excited to share with folks. Hopefully you learn something.
Agreed. All right, well, let's jump in. Let's talk about the LOI process. Talk a little bit about what an LOI is, what are other names for an LOI, and what the purpose of an LOI is.
Sure. So an LOI is a general terms of agreement on the framework of a deal between a buyer and a seller. What it's not is a binding agreement. It is supposed to be on the front end for a buyer and a seller to agree to specific general concepts that they can then work to figure out over the course of 2, 3, 4 months after signing to get a deal done. And really what you're signing up for in an LOI is just a period of exclusivity. That means that you will agree to not negotiate with anybody else besides the person you've signed the agreement with.
For those that don't know, what does an LOI actually stand for?
It stands for a letter of intent. It means I'm intending, under the frameworks that we have agreed to on this piece of paper, to proceed with the deal.
What are some other names? We've used term sheet, we've used an IOI. What are the differences between those?
The most two common ones you will hear are LOI or term sheet. They're roughly interchangeable. An IOI is slightly different. It's usually a little bit more framework oriented on the front end of a more broad-based process. But an LOI and a term sheet are basically the same thing.
What are some of the key terms that we find in term sheets or LOIs?
Sure.
What do those terms do?
Sure. So again, the only thing that you're signing up for in an LOI is a period of exclusivity, so you can't go shop a deal, and governance and fees effectively. Governing law and fees. So you're not really signing up for anything other than saying, I'm only going to negotiate with this person exclusively. But some of the terms that you could find are the very basic concepts that'll inform what a deal looks like over time. So for example, you're going to want to have the purchase price in there. You will potentially want to have, is there going to be rollover equity involved? How is the deal being financed? Is it contingent on a buyer being able to fund the deal with debt or other financing that they have not yet been able to raise? It'll talk about the timeline. It'll talk about potentially the key deal constructs, like how are the employees treated? How are the major documents treated in the deal, whether it's the purchase agreement or how the company is going to operate after the fact in an LLC or partnership agreement? How are the restrictive covenants in a deal going to be treated?
What are restrictive covenants?
Good question. Those are things like, hey, I'm selling you my business, but I want you to not be able to compete with me for 5 years because I'm paying you money for the right to have this business together. I don't want you being able to go across the street and start a new one the next day. There's other things like non-solicit. I won't solicit the customers, or I won't solicit the employees that are currently working for the business to go start something different. There are things like a non-disparagement agreement, which means that I can't say anything bad about the business or the seller after the fact, at least publicly. So it's pretty broad and encompassing to make sure that everybody kind of knows on the front end exactly what the high level terms are going to be that you're going to be working towards once you sign.
In our experience, we've negotiated on term sheets, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. How does that happen?
Sure. So there are varying approaches as to what a term sheet looks like. Some could look, for example, with like it's a legal document. It's one page. It just has the purchase price and it has estimated timing and it has exclusivity and everybody signs, which that just means that you're going to figure everything else out after you sign. Usually leads to more contentious negotiations because people aren't on the same page ahead of time. The other side of the approach is to have a very robust term sheet, 4, 5, 6 pages even in some cases, to talk about all the terms of a deal ahead of time. And that way you have a very robust agreement on the way that people are going to move forward. Now, that in and of itself takes a longer time to negotiate and is a lot more potentially scary for a seller who's never been through this before. So there's just varying degrees of how transparent people want to be on the front end.
But sometimes we have found that if we negotiate the deal and the term sheet a little bit more on the front end, it does help on the back end when we get to the purchase agreement that some of those negotiations go a lot smoother because we've kind of already negotiated some of the key terms on the term sheet.
Yeah. Philosophically, I would like to have a more robust term sheet because I want people to know what they're signing up for. I've done this deal process hundreds of times in my career. It's likely that the seller is going through this the first time. So having a general understanding of what it looks like on the front end is going to make everybody's lives easier, sort of once you kind of move past the term sheet into more formal diligence.
Talk about we're pretty conscious about the customers, taking care of the customers, taking care of the employees. We do, at least the ones that we have done together, we have focused specifically, let's say, on the employees in the term sheet. What does that look like in some cases?
Sure. A lot of times in a term sheet, you'll be working with the buyer to figure out exactly what does this deal look like for my employees? What does this deal look like for me? What does this deal look like for my management team? Do you want me to stay along for a period of time? Am I going to be required to have an employment agreement post-close? Who is the succession plan for the business going forward if you want me to transition away? You may have a general understanding of if there are any employees that potentially could be exiting, which does happen sometimes. Sure. And that's a conversation you will need to have with the buyer.
Certainly better to have it on the front end.
Absolutely. Knowing that on the front end is it makes everybody's lives easier. It's never fun, but it's unfortunately a practical reality of deal making sometimes.
Yeah, it's a hard conversation.
One of the bigger things that we talk about too in the LOI is just setting expectations on what does the timeline look like.
Right.
How long does it take normally for Redwood to get a deal done after signing an LOI, David?
Usually from the term sheet till close, we can do it in 45 to 60 days, which is probably faster than most, but we've done it so many times that I think we have a pretty good process on how to do it.
We could still do it faster, in my opinion. We have an
trying.
internal goal of 30 days, but we're still working towards that.
Sure. And some deals are bigger than others, and it's a little bit harder, but we can move pretty quickly if all of our ducks are in a row.
So what happens after we sign?
So in our case, normally after the LOI is signed, we'll begin a few levels of diligence. We'll do operational diligence. We'll move to the legal work stream. We'll start working on a purchase agreement. We'll also do financial diligence. Even though we've done some financial diligence before the LOI itself is done, there's still some continued diligence that needs to be done afterwards to get ready for the deal to close. So there is still some work that has to be done. It's not finalized when the term sheet or LOI is completed, but it does kind of lock in our relationship with the seller, and it helps us with, like you mentioned before, the exclusivity to where we're both now focused on getting this deal done.
Totally. I would argue the vast majority of the work still needs to be done, but having the general framework on we want to move forward with the deal together, I think is very important in aligning the buyer and the seller.
Do sellers normally take term sheets to their lawyers to look at?
Absolutely. It's still a legal document, and I would highly recommend a lawyer look at it before you sign it, no matter who it is.
Sure. Like you mentioned before, some of them could be 1 page, some of them could be 4 or 5 pages.
Yeah,
What we normally use is a little bit longer than normal, but you've seen, I'm sure, term sheets that are 1 or 2 paragraphs even.
absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but there are some buyers that'll have purchase price and sign here, and that allows them to have negotiating power later on down the line. And to me, gives a little bit more of a potential for a broken deal just because terms aren't clearly laid out on the front end.
And really, the exclusivity is the main thing that we're bound to in the term sheet itself.
Exactly. Again, you're not signing up to say this is the final purchase price, these are the final governance terms, these are the employees that are going to stay, this is what my rollover is going to be. Is the general framework and understanding, knowing that that could change during diligence or as people's thinking evolves on the deal.
But basically, what you're saying is, I am not going to shop this deal from the time I sign this term sheet until whatever date may be in there that the exclusivity basically ends,
Exactly.
assuming we don't get a deal or we don't extend the exclusivity period.
You're only signing up for not shopping the deal.
Right. And also, there's some level of confidentiality too. The confidentiality is also binding in the term sheet or LOI, which basically says you're not going to share any information you learn about us, and we're not going to share any information we learn about you in the deal to any of your competitors or anybody else, and you're going to do the same as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're really talking about what you're signing up for, it's exclusivity, which we've talked about, confidentiality, which we've talked about, who pays for fees. Generally, both parties are going to pay for their own fees, is how it most traditionally works. And what is the governing law venue in the case that there's a dispute, which we've never had one, and most people don't think about it going into deals, but where Delaware is probably going to be the most common to have the deal governing law.
Yeah, we find that a lot. People are always questioning why, we're based in Tennessee, we're doing deals in Wisconsin, or we're doing deals in California, and the term sheets always mention Delaware. People are always curious, why is Delaware in there? So
yeah. So I know we said a lot of scary words here today, but in short, what an LOI is just a basic framework for a deal and an agreement for a buyer and a seller to move forward under a framework set of terms for a specific period of time, usually somewhere between 2 and 3 months.
And I think it's a positive thing. It sets the stage for the relationship between the two parties, and it really kind of sets the framework for how we're going to move forward in closing the deal.
Absolutely. I think it sets the stage for success post signing and something that, is very traditional and standard, even if it seems like it's very scary.
Right.
It's the first step in what will likely be a long journey.
Right. We're doing this podcast. Both of us have quite a bit of experience in doing deals. Currently, we're with Redwood Services, which we focus specifically on residential HVAC, plumbing, and electrical businesses. I have experience in the past with pest control, some other home services. I know you have experience in other deals as well, you may want to talk about. But we're here to try to educate people. We've had a lot of experience in deals, and we're trying to teach people what we've learned, what has gone well in deals, what has not gone so well. We're trying to have a little fun with it, and that's what we're trying to do here.
To me, the M&A world can be scary for people that have never been in it, but once you kind of peel back a layer of the onion, it's really fairly simple, and we're going to be the guys that hopefully can give you a little bit of confidence heading into whatever potential transaction you're looking to do with your own business.
Yeah. And our focus here on this podcast is going to be more about home services, but I think it's fair to say that a lot of the things we're going to be talking about apply probably to all different kind of deals.
Yeah, the vast majority of the topics we're talking about are standard across most industries, and these general concepts are going to be helpful for people that are either just interested in doing a deal, whether they want to learn about or get into the industry, or they just want to learn something new.
Right. And it can be scary. I mean, this is a legacy of somebody they're selling potentially. This could be a family business for 100 years. You want to be educated. You want to know what you're getting into. You want to know what you should be expecting in a deal, who you're working with. Hopefully, some of these things that we're going to share with people will help them through that journey.
I like to tell owners that this is like a child when you're selling your business. And yes, I've been through it hundreds of times and have a lot of experience doing this, and it's second nature. But this is likely the first time you've ever gone through it. And so being prepared and understanding what is going to be one of the biggest decisions of your life is really important. The thing that we're doing at Redwood Services, which we have invested in home service businesses more in the past 5 years than basically anybody in the country. We get to see this day in and day out, and continuing to learn and educate people, I think is a really fun and important part of our jobs.
Right.
Poor decisions. One beer, one bad deal decision, and one lesson we paid for so you don't have to.
All right, so that takes us to our poor decision segment, where we talk about lessons that we've learned, bad decisions we may have made in the past, and hopefully we can teach people how to avoid those kind of things in the future.
We got plenty of those.
We certainly
But I'm
do.
excited to see you pour this beer.
So, Shaun, tell us a little bit about today's beer before we pour it, and then we'll get into it.
Today's beer is from Wiseacre, which is a local brewery here in Memphis. It's called the Sky Dog. It's a lager, and it should be something tasty for us to talk about a poor decision.
Excellent. Well, let's get into it.
We're off to a hot start.
All right. Looks good.
I think you could have foamed that a little bit more, David.
You got to do a better job of pouring. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, Shaun, tell us a little bit about, well,
That was all foam for me.
I know, me too. Shaun, tell us a little bit about a poor decision that we've made in our company specifically, and kind of the impact that had, and what a potential seller might learn from that.
Sure. So one of the things that we had done in the past that had caused a little bit of consternation, in particular to one gentleman in Pennsylvania who we were trying to do a deal with, was what we'd mentioned earlier. We put together a term sheet that was about 7 pages. And this gentleman, who had not been through the process before, got scared by all the terms that were in there, and ultimately just ended up walking away, when in reality, this was more of a messaging issue on our part, because what we were doing was very standard, and we were actually hoping to get him more comfortable with all the terms that he was going to be effectively agreeing to. And it had the opposite effect. It caused him to think that we were trying to pull one over on him, and he got scared, and ultimately we didn't get a deal done.
What is something positive a potential seller can learn from that story?
I think the biggest thing is that, number one, in a term sheet, you're not signing up for anything other than exclusivity. So it's not a binding agreement. You can always walk away if you want to. Number two is that the more detail that you have on the front end in a term sheet, the more easy the negotiation is going to be on the back end, just because you'll know exactly what you're talking about, or you'll at least have already had the conversation on what things mean when you're signing a term sheet.
You don't want to get too aggressive with a term sheet. You don't want to get too granular with a term sheet necessarily. You kind of have to know your buyer. You have to know your buyer and your seller. Like,
Totally.
you have to go down the right path, knowing what people are going to tolerate, what they're not going to tolerate, and you certainly don't want to lose a deal over it.
You want to hit the general concepts at a high level so people have a general understanding, but not make it a purchase agreement that's 500 pages long. The goal would be to make sure that it's high level enough, but also you're hitting the key topics.
And the term sheet itself, like we've talked about before, is really a very positive part of the deal. You know, it sets the stage and the parameters for what's going to happen going forward.
It's an exciting step for everybody.
Right. All right. Sell yeah, baby.
So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about the potential sale of your HVAC, plumbing, or electrical business, or have general questions about the process, feel free to contact me at Shaun@redwoodservices.com, or contact us at redwoodservices.com.